What do you think guys get wrong about what women find attractive?
Okay, so I did a short study survey on the web about the Giga Chad. I took just one photo. Most people, I think, will know the Giga Chad, this meme. I think he's a very handsome guy, but importantly, he's an extremely dimorphic guy, right? His face is extremely masculine, big chin, big brow ridge, and everything. So he has an extremely dimorphic face, and he's also considered to be very handsome, at least in these kind of meme subcultures of the black pill. That's why he's called the Giga Chad, because he is kind of the archetype of the most attractive man. So I ran this across a large sample of men and women. Men overwhelmingly related or rated him as attractive. Women didn't. But at the same time, there was kind of, it wasn't a distribution where most women, I should say that differently. Most women found him unattractive, but there were some women who found him pretty attractive. At the same time, most men thought he was attractive. So a lot of the time, men kind of get wrong what women like as far as the physical features of men. I wrote another long article reviewing the research in that on facial attractiveness and specifically facial dimorphism, masculine facial features. I think men think that very, very masculine facial features are attractive to women. Usually it isn't the very most dimorphic faces that are the most attractive to women. If you think about a really dimorphic face, it's kind of like a gorilla in a sense. But it's probably not going to be the least dimorphic face, the least feminine. There's a lot of research on how averageness is attractive. And sometimes when I say that, people think, what do you mean? How can an average face? Certainly average is not attractive, but average in this case means features that are not too extreme, that are symmetrical, that are not too extreme. So those are some things that predict facial attractiveness in any sense. For personality, and what I think men often get wrong, at least in kind of these manosphere subcultures, they tend to think that women enjoy antisocial behavior. They tend to think that women are very, very attracted to certain antisocial traits, which is typically not the norm. So if you look at something like the dark triad, for example, there is research that indicates that the dark triad is attractive to women. So the dark triad is this triad of traits that are antisocial: psychopathy, Machiavellianism, and narcissism. So looking at those individually, some of those actually predict attractiveness better than others, primarily narcissism. And that might be because people who are narcissists pay more attention to their own appearance and because their behavior is very different. It seems like Machiavellianism doesn't actually predict this kind of attractiveness, not attractiveness as far as physical ratings, nor mating success as well as the other two do. So those are certain things to consider.
Yeah, it is interesting about how the common held wisdom on the internet about what it is that women want. I had a Seth Stevens Davidowitz on the show who wrote Everybody Lies and Don't Trust Your Gut. And in Don't Trust Your Gut, he did a autistic data scientist's approach to optimizing his personal appearance. And he split tested, there's websites where you can do this now, but he actually back-ended this back in the day. He grew a beard, put a photo of him with a beard up. Should I get a beard? Should I have glasses? Should I have my hair short? Should I have my hair long? Should I wear this? Should I wear that? And he basically split tested all of the different iterations of his appearance down to I should have a beard, wear glasses, blah, 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 this particular like collection of things. And he is now, by his own admission, in a relationship with a girl that he's punching out of his league with. And the reason that that happened, he said, and he has data to back this up, which is that you want to try and make people love or hate the sort of look that you have going forward. You don't want to be everybody's just okay. You want to be some people absolutely go for you. And the same thing goes for personality as well. That he said his girlfriend, maybe even now fiance, before they even got together, was with her friends and talking about being single. And they said, so what are you into? And what are you into? And what are you into? And they turned to his future girlfriend, said, what are you into? And she says, I just love nerds. I can't say what it is about it. I have such a soft spot for nerds, and that is the kind of guy that I find the most sexy. And sure enough, down the line comes Seth Stevens Davidowitz, ex-data scientist at Google, and like literally the guy that's just done a spreadsheet to work out how he should look most attractive. But there you go. There's your nerdy guy. Now, certain corners of the internet would say, oh, well, that's just her beta bucks on the way to an alpha fucks solution or whatever it is. I don't know. It seems to be unlikely to me because a lot of the time I've seen guys get into relationships with girls who really love funny men or really love artsy men or really love athletic men or really love whatever. It's not all pointing in this sort of unidimensional, one-directional way of up and across toward hypermasculinity. The higher your testosterone, you're always going to win. Like there's certain universals, symmetrical face, for instance. I've never heard anybody say, you know what it is? I just love an unsymmetrical face. That's not something typically that I've heard. But there are far fewer universalities than I think people would find. And when it comes to guys and advice for guys in dating, I think sticking to some of the absolute undeniable rules and then going, okay, what am I really, really good at? If you're really, really good at being the artsy guy with a hanging earring that can play the guitar, like, lean into being Mr. Guitar Player thing. Or if you're the super funny guy, Pete Davidson's the route to go, whatever it might be, you can become more of what you are. And that to me seems like not only the smartest route to go down in terms of being effective with women, but it's also the route down which you're going to feel like less of a fraud. And this was something else that you've brought up with, which is this sort of pickup artist to incel pipeline that you had tracked through some data. And I think one of the reasons that a lot of guys became disenchanted with the pickup artist community was that what they realized, even the ones that were successful, if you were successful at pickup, what it taught you was that the role that you played was all that women were attracted to. And the further that the role that you played was from the person that you genuinely are, you realized, oh my God, I am so inherently unlovable and deficient in myself. However, women are this game to be played. They're this adversary to be won. They're this competitor that I'm supposed to gain control over. And if I play the game right and use the correct series of neurolinguistic programming languages, I will be able to win this game. And for the people who did try pickup and it didn't work, either because they weren't able to do it correctly or because there was something about them that meant that they couldn't get it to work in no matter what they did, it was also disenchanting to them too. So pickup to me seemed like a unfalsifiably disheartening approach to dating.
Certainly. So what you mentioned about attractiveness, let me comment on that and then go to the pickup, because there's two interesting topics. So a lot of research on facial attractiveness up to this point has looked at how much people agree on attractive faces. And when you look at inter-rater correlations across a whole group on attractiveness, they seem really, really high. You can get correlations between like 0.6 and 0.9 for facial attractiveness ratings, which makes it seem like, oh man, people really agree on what an attractive face is. And it's true if you look at that metric. If you look within that metric, if you run an ICC correlation and you look at pair ratings, the correlation is much, much lower. It can be about 0.2 to 0.3 or something.
You're going to have to explain what you're talking about here.
Certainly. So if you take a big group of people and you have them rate a face and you look at their ratings, then you'll get a correlation that seems very, very high. Like most people agree on what an attractive face is. If you take two individual people out of that group at random and you look at their correlation, and then you take two more out of that group at random and you look at their correlation, and then you compute that, you'll say, wow, people don't really agree at all. There's actually a lot of variation on an attractive face. There's a good paper, I think it's from 2016, maybe it's a little older, by a researcher named Honeycutt, and he plots it out on a plot. And he says, okay, so here are all the actual faces, and here's the highest rating and the lowest rating. And almost every face, regardless of how attractive it was, got a really high rating and a really low rating. I recently ran a survey, I have it up on the website now. I took faces from the Chicago Face database, and I selected these faces, male and female faces, to be kind of below attractiveness. And about all of these faces got about 25% of people that said, okay, that face is good enough, I would date it, even though they were all kind of unattractive faces, as far as pre-ratings went. The pre-ratings, highly correlated. The ratings that people gave, the participants, highly correlated within each other and to these pre-ratings. So people all kind of agreed on the attractiveness of these faces, even across different questions that I asked, like how attractive are these relative to the population? How attractive do you find them? At the same time, if you go through all of these faces, every single one of these faces had people that rated it like, a Likert scale, 1 through 7, 7 most attractive. Every single face had at least someone who said it was a 7, a 6, a 5. So there is a great deal of individual variation in an attractive face. Even if most people agree that a face is unattractive, there's still going to be a pretty large cohort that says, I actually kind of like that face.
Mm.